welcome to my talk. My name is Martijn Bauters. I'm the head of data intelligence at Easyfairs, an event company. Today I want to talk about why we pulled the plug out of a perfect working machine learning project. So I'll take you back about a year and a half ago in time on one of the first AI cases we wanted to put in production. How we did it according to the book and how we still messed it up and what we learned from it. So let me first explain what Easyfairs does. We are a big trade show organizer. We organize about 200 to 250 trade shows yearly in the western side of Europe. Next to that, we also have a few venues. If this was not an online event, this would have been in Shistamasan, which is part of our group. Our focus as a company is really aimed at the exhibition side. So we have stands with companies who promote things. We are not in the area of conferences, which is quite important to understand the entire use case I want to explain you. And it's important to understand the use case to see where it went wrong. So most of our events, they have paying exhibitors, so paying companies, but most of our attendees, so the visitors, they can come for free. The only thing they need to do is register. So the business problem that we want to solve is the fact that of all people who register, we only have an average of 60% that actually shows up at the edition. It's quite logical to see that if you have free registration, that you lose a few people going to the event. So the idea is, what you want to know is, can we actually predict those people up front? Because 40% on average for us, we have about 1 million visitors yearly. So if you then add 40%, the 40% that you miss, we're talking about a potential of 800,000 people who are actually interested in our product, because otherwise they would not have registered. So for us, that's a huge pond of potential we can actually target and bring back into contact with the exhibitors who are at our show. But the most important thing is to try and make sure, okay, can we market or can we do marketing campaigns that are altered towards these people to make sure that they can come, or that they can at least benefit from some things of our events. So again, free entrance, a lot of people who register, a lot of people who then don't show up, because if something happens in between, it's easy to move something where you did not pay for. So the proposed process that we anticipated when we were building this this solution is threefold. You have a part on the business side, a part on the AI side, and a part on the data side. What we call an edition here, an edition -1 is a previous edition for us. The edition is a part of an event. So the Data Innovation Summit is an event for us. Data Innovation Summit 2020 will be the 5th edition of that event. So we take a look at the previous edition, we check the behavior of the people who registered online, and then we take a look, okay, which people showed up, which people did not show up. We model a few very basic information, like did they actually fill in a proper email address? Did they fill in a proper phone number? Because that shows interest towards our editions or not. We also check if they, so there are 2 matching modules in the process, checking if people are from the same companies, if they are colleagues, if they used to work together, things like that we try to do, as well as eliminate double registration. So we have a whole model that we evaluate, we train it, or we train it, we evaluate it, we publish our model, and then we take the registration data for the next edition. So if we would do it for this edition, or this show that we're talking about for the Data Innovation Summit, we would take all of the behavior of the registration process of the Data Innovation Summit of 2019 and run it over all of the registration of this year. And what we would get is a probability of showing up for each individual prereq in that registration process. So every person gets a number going from 0 to 100%, as in most likely to not show up, going to 0, they will definitely join up. So then we have that file, and the ID, the initial file, to make it simple, or the initial ID to make it very simple back in the day, was to create a simple Excel file we could deliver to our to the business people so that they could work with that file. Some people want to push it directly through a system. We said, okay, we just provide it. You can take a look. You can segment again, and you can send out emails or whatever you want to do. Give a free voucher, some things like that. We are not helping, but we support them on that, but we're not making that decision. So whenever business has these probabilities, they can take an action. Depending on what they do, they don't do an action because maybe it's not an issue for their edition, or they don't want to spend any money on it. If they want to do an action, we will help them and propose proper A/B testing, and then the addition happens and we start the loop again. So that means for each individual event, we have about 150 to 200 events. We would build 200 models for that and provide them a week up front, whatever they wanted. So quite clear, we start from the previous edition, we model the behavior on the registration process of that edition, and we end up with a model for each of a model that delivers a probability per prereq for all new registrations. At the evaluation of the results. This is the most representative show that we have for all the ones we did. So we're on average always on the same point, or we were at the same point. This AI algorithm works in production right now after the adaptations that we wanted to do. But what you see here is a gain curve. We show the percentage of no-shows in the sample that we would provide. On the vertical axis, on the horizontal axis, we order the prereqs going from the left side, having the least amount of the most amount of chance to not show up, and on the right, those that have the least amount of chance. If the gray line in the middle is a benchmark that would give you a coin flip, or would be a representative of reality, so whenever you take the gray one, you get about 40%. I said on average 40% would be no show in a sample. So if you follow our ordered prereq list and you target the 10% highest, you would have targeted 21% of all your no-show. If you would take 20% highest, you would have actually targeted 40% of your no-show. It's a huge amount of people that we can target. So results here really look promising. They look to add big value to the business. So this was like, okay, we do our first AI model, we have a win, let's continue. Now, to show you what it means in numbers, for one of our show we tested this. If they would contact about 2,000 prereqs that we ordered, the 2,000 highest prereqs, they would actually be able to reach out to about 1,500 actual no-shows. It means that the sample that we give them contains 75% no-show. It's a huge win in terms of targeting those people. So the issue, because it goes perfectly until here, and I still remember it. I'm presenting these into a senior leadership meeting in one of our countries. CEO sitting in the back, presenting the slide, or presenting the previous slide, and saying, wow, we're going to change it. It was my first project as well for this company. So I'm in there presenting it, CEO in the back just saying, ain't gonna work. And I'm like, oh, why not? And this is why. What you see here is a graph that contains the intake of registrations. A bit of the registrations still come during the event, and people who hear about it while it's ongoing, they quickly register, they show up. So those you can't target. That's the dotted line on the entire right. So 70% of all the registrations happen before the edition. And what you see as well is that a week before the edition, the other line, you only have about 50% of your registrations. So the big chunk that you want to target, and that's the idea, we're going to provide that Excel file a week before the edition so they can take an action, is entirely going into the garbage bin, because one, there is not enough, they're not a big amount of people you can contact. Two, and that's the biggest thing that we missed, is that if you organize an event, all of the effort that you have to do falls in the last 2-3 months. and especially in the last weeks. So the idea of providing that Excel file the last week before the edition, and the earlier we do, the less people we would have captured to be able to contact. The more work an event team already has, and so they don't have time to work with that Excel file. So we did everything right according to the book. We have a business problem that actually can be solved with AI. We can predict it. We have the results that predicted. A very good results and actionability, so that would work. The only thing we missed is that we tried to integrate it into an existing business process without thinking about it, because I presented this in other countries as well, where a lot of people did not notice the fact that there's just no time to process this. So what did we learn and how do we do it now, especially with this case? Very simple. After that meeting, I had a very, very bad evening. I contacted my CDO, my CEO, and I said, look, we missed something. We need to rethink the process we want to do. Let's go for that. So we entirely shifted our mentality on how we do things, and that's what I want to talk about in the second part of this presentation. First and for all, AI is not built on top of your product. It's part of the foundation. So product or process. And in this case, we're talking about a process, a registration process that is being done by our internal employees. What we try to do is we try to throw an AI element on top of that process or product, and that does not work. So the idea here, and what you should do, is you need to talk with the people involved on this, for us, the registration process, and check with them when would be the right moment, how would we do it, and where do we do it. So that is a part that we did not fully evaluate. So again, don't just throw AI effort and AI resources on an existing product that is entirely fitted. You need to rethink it from the base. It's also one of the reasons why a lot of companies are adding data scientists and AI profiles in their product teams to start from scratch, so that they are involved at the beginning, at the refinement stages, at the foundation and design stages, so that these can be incorporated, and only then will you get gain from your AI cases. Fail fast, succeed faster. It's a logical one. We tried very hard to get the perfect model in the first time. It did what it should do. We iterated on it. It went well. We went way too late to business with this. There were business people involved, of course, but we were way too late. So go fast, fail fast. Make sure you are actually getting everybody's opinion in during your process, not only before, but also during. Validate every process step you want to take, and make sure you have somebody in the room who fully understands all aspects of the business and that and that process that you want to alter. Get your C-level involved early. That has been for me a big changer. I had full backing from the C-level in the beginning. As I said, I sent a mail to my CDO and CEO saying, look, this isn't working. We're not we missed this one. What can we do? And we immediately decided to take a 2-day offsite with our C-level, so CFO, group CEO, CMO. We flew in some people from abroad, specialists on this, to help us actually. So they explained the AI cases to the board. If you ever see backpropagation being explained to a CEO, it's a pretty nice meeting or presentation. And we also focused on how will we structure the team, where will we focus on, and this is really the big changer. And maybe it's not C-level for you, but you need to have that decision maker on your side that can make space for you to actually open the door and breach you in and have the opportunity to change and be backed by people who can actually back you fully. So at the end of that meeting, we went back, we had a full 2-year plan. Everybody knew on which we were going to focus and what was necessary and which part would have to be played by the other people in the room. So I really advise you, if you start with this, make sure you have backing of somebody who can actually get things done for you. It's not about insights, it's all about being actionable. One of the things that we changed in the process is, okay, we do a very good actionability assessment at the start of every proof of concept that we do with AI. We try to do a lot of them. And whenever we have doubt on the actionability, we stop the project. We put it back on the shelf. We re-evaluate what we want to do, which business value we want to get, and how we will make it actionable for for our employees. So one of the things that we do now different is the idea of Excel files has entirely been removed, and we only deploy and deliver AI components or AI predictions to the system they are working with. So for example, a sales will never get in contact with a list generated by an AI engine, but we would change the CRM system to incorporate that so that they only have their CRM system to work in. And if you want to do, for example, lead generation, you can automatically order their opportunity list or their target list by an AI engine that supports them. In the case of this one, we actually do not want to send that list to the event team anymore. We actually add the field into Salesforce Marketing Cloud so that they can build a customer journey from the start, and they can upfront say, okay, 1 week before the edition, send me this to all people who have 80% plus likelihood of not showing up, so that it's all covered away. They can do it upfront, but it still happens on the moment where you can capture the most value with it. So once more, getting the insights, it's very nice if you want to do a one-off. The results can be very, very good, but if you cannot make it actionable, it's just a sunk cost for everybody. Complexity costs start simple. We just remodeled one of our neural networks that was extremely, extremely complex. And at the end, the complexity did not add much value. We were hoping it would, but it did not. So we lost a lot of time on that one. So really start simple, get from your proof of concept to an AZ product as fast as possible, preferable within your proof of concept if you have the space and the people to do so. So make sure that your proof of concept is a fully working model. It can have some manual steps, but make sure it works and it gets from the data import side to where it should bring the data to in one pipeline, so you can easily iterate from your MVP on. So make sure your proof of concept works, it's actionable, it can go, and then you can start axing all of the complexity. So that was it for my talk. So to recap entirely, what I talked to you about is I showed you an example of one of our first AI cases where we did it according to the textbook. We had all of the low-hanging fruit stuff and make sure there's business value and others. We all covered that, but it was actionable, but we were not integrated in the entire process. So that's why you should make sure that your AI cases are always integrated in your process from the start and not just thrown up at the end. For that, you need C-level or big decision makers involvement so that you actually have the power to break open that process to add it in those systems. Again, start small, get quickly to iteration so you can validate. Get the big shots in there that really know your industry by heart. The people who work there 15 to 20 years, they will see all of the pitfalls that you missed. And I would say that is it. Thank you very much for listening. If you have any question at all, feel free to contact me on LinkedIn or another medium. I wish you a very good online edition of the Data Innovation Summit and see you later. Bye.